you go. So on here, when we're talking about designated business phone, you need a phone that's yours and that will ring to a number that you're familiar with. There's so many different ways to do this today. You have your phone with a phone number, right? You can use you can use a smart number, which is in Max Tech powered by Bold Trail. You can actually purchase one of those, so you have a separate number to use rather than your personal one. You have that option, but that has to be purchased, right? So then the alternative there would also be use Google Voice. So I can use Google Voice and it's free, right? I can use Google Voice for a number and get a number and use that for my business. I can use that on my marketing, etc. I would just need to keep that up and make sure it stays current. When I talk about Google Voice, just to give you an example, let me share the screen with you here. I've used it 3 different times where I have set it up where I've set it up and used it. This one, for example, this was in 2016. 2014, for example, this is when I started with this one, and I had this one for a while, and then I switched to another one, and I switched to another one. And the reason, some of the reasoning behind this is behind using Google Voice versus something else sometimes is because at least I have another number I can use. That's number one rather than my personal number. Number two, I can take this number and I can switch it off. So as both my wife and I were in the business, I could switch it over to her today and me tomorrow or whatever the case was, and we would get those calls, right? Instead of giving out our personal calls, our personal number. The other thing is if you have any recordings that come in, you actually get that in a message, in a written message instead of I mean, you'll get the voice as well if you want, but at least this way you also have a written message, and that works. And again, that's just one of those things where, as an agent, it was beneficial. I worked for a company, one of the real estate companies I worked for. Um, we actually had Google Voice set up for everything in the office. The drawback there is if the internet goes out, you have no phone service, right? So just keep that in mind. But there's choices there. And there's an agent that I worked with out of San Antonio years ago, where her husband, who was in security, um, national type security, let's just do that, required her to use this Google Voice number versus because I was talking about it in a class just like this, and this is where it came up. Her husband set it up for her and told her she could only use he obviously she can make choices, but he would wanted her to only use the Google Voice number on everything so that nobody had her real number. Because a lot of times when you have the real number, you can trace it down to where it's at and et cetera. And Google Voice is not that way. Everybody good there? Questions, comments? All right, so I'm going to switch this back over. Get a couple more slides real quick with you, a couple points. So you decide, do you want one or two phones? How do you want to do it? There's an agent, and he's actually a broker now in Harlingen. He used to have two phones. He had one for buyers, one for sellers, and he used the different numbers, different ways, right? If he was working with a buyer or prospecting for buyers, his buyer flyers, everything he did there for buyers had that phone number on it. If he was working for sellers, he had that number on it. That may sound like a cool thing, but that's going to be hard to keep separated, in my opinion. I know he had it for a long time. I don't know if he still has it today or not, but he's now a broker. We used to be agents together. He's now a broker, and I just don't see that working. But I share it with you because again, you have choices. So I showed you the Google Voice and how that works. You can always have that. Let's talk about the phone service itself. When you answer the phone, from the day your license comes in, you have a business, right? You have a business. So when you answer the phone, you want to answer it and be professional about it. Always, always, always. And the difference there being, if you will, like one of the agents a while back, I call the agent's cell phone and she just answers hello. I get you have caller ID and you may know who I am. That's perfectly okay. However, um, it gave me a bad feeling because is that the way you answer all your calls? I mean, because people you don't even know comes in with caller ID. right? Or at least I know it does on mine. So do you just answer it hello, or do you identify who you are? Like, for example, when my phone rings almost every time, 99.9% of the time, I will answer, "This is Mac. How may I help you? This is Mac. How may I help you?" It's been that way for years. I have changed that around from time to time. And if I had an office where I was in charge, totally 100%, the way the office would answer it would probably be different in some ways. Like for example, one that stuck with me for years was Zig Ziglar's. I used to work in Dallas, in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and I used to take. I attended several of the Zig Ziglar's seminars. I used to take new recruiters over to his place so they could see what was going on over there. When they answered the phone, it would be, "It's a great day at Zig Ziglar's. How may I direct your call?" And to me, that works for a real estate office also. If I was a receptionist at a real estate office, and there's some offices that do that. There's one in Harlingen, not ours. There's one in Harlingen that does that where they'll answer the phone, XYZ Realty, how may I direct your call, right? Because the receptionist is going to give it to whoever's on duty. And that way it causes that person to just state what they're calling for, not to unload everything on the receptionist who can't answer the phone, answer the questions in most cases anyway. All right, so the other thing is when we talk about professional, always remember that your job is to get information so that you can provide a follow-up, right? I'm going to get their information so you can do a follow-up. You want to set an appointment if at all possible, right? That should be your main goal. Every time that phone rings is to set an appointment with that person. If you have that focus, it can always switch on and off, right? Have that focus, set the appointment over and over. If it's somebody new calling, I'm calling about XYZ Realty or XYZ property, right? 123 A Street, for example. You're calling about, oh, hold on just a second. Jeez. More people coming in. If you're calling about 123 A Street and I answer the phone, "This is Mac, how may I help you?" And you say, "I'm calling about this property. What can you tell me about it?" I'm going to start doing some research to get that, but I'm not going to just do research. I'm going to ask some questions, right? And we'll go through questions as we go through this. Questions you ask buyers, questions you ask sellers. We'll talk about those specific questions, but when that phone call first comes in, I want to get as much information as I can from them. You find out whatever reason you want to use, you use that, whatever you feel comfortable with. I've heard agents use, "Well, just in case we get disconnected, can I go ahead and get your phone number?" I don't feel comfortable with that. I never use that. I've heard people use it. I've heard brokers say that's a good technique. It works. It's not something I use. What I would do is as soon as I get, they're calling about 123 A Street, let me look that information up for you. And if I can find that information, what email can I send it to? Or as I find that information, what email can I send that to? And they'll say, "Well, just go ahead and give it to me on the phone here real quick." That's fine. I can do that, but I'm going to work toward that email. I want their email address. I probably have, if they're calling on my cell phone, I probably have their cell number, and I need a name. Name, phone number, and email address is what you want, and you want an appointment set. So if I switch over to this is Mac with this is Mac, right? How may I help you? And they say they're calling about 123 A Street. I said, "Great, let me look that up for you. What's a good email address so I can send that information to you as soon as I get it up here?" And they give me an email address. I'm going to jot that down. I'm going to look the property up. While I'm looking the property up, I'm going to be having a conversation with them. Part of that conversation is, if you like this property, or if this property is something you want to see, when would you like to see that? Today or tomorrow? You always want to give them a contained choice, right? So when I put on the slide here or on the handout you guys have, and again, I'll throw that handout in here again for those of you that just joined. I want to get the information I can from them so that I can help them, right? That's the whole idea behind it. I want to try to set an appointment as soon as possible. I can always cancel the appointment, but I want to get their information and set an appointment. That's my goal, right? And then work from there. That's on the phone. So we're talking about the phone etiquette. We talked about the different phones you could have, the different services you could have using Google Voice, or within our system in Max Tech powered by Bold Trail, you can have a smart number. And by the way, once again, that smart number within that system, if you actually pay for that, and I don't recall off the top what that cost to get that, we might be able to look here in a little bit because we're going to be in there. But if you pay for that, what happens is if that individual calls that number, it's going to go to you, right? It'll always go to you because it's your number. If the individual was to call that number, they're going to show up in your system. So you'll have your CRM working for you, so you can stay in touch with them, and you can call them through the system, which is what you want to do, right? Because that way you're tracking what's going on with them as well. We'll talk more about that as we build on the CRM later on this week. Any questions?
Yeah, Mac, I have a question. This is Jane.
Yes, ma'am.
What's your opinion on spam phone calls? If you see spam, possible spam, whatever, do you answer it? Because I know our numbers out there being in this industry, and I don't.
Um, my recommendation is not to answer them. The same thing
Okay.
with spam text. If you get a text, I probably get 3 or 4, maybe more texts a day. Well, off and on. But I don't respond to them. Like they'll say respond, stop. Don't respond
Mhm.
because all
Okay.
you've done is validated the number. And that's all they're looking for, right?
Right.
So that's the best thing to do. If I get a like our phone is set where we get spam likely, right?
Right.
Shows up. And as soon as it's done ringing, I'll hit block. I'll block that number. And
Okay.
I have a whole laundry list of numbers. Every now and then when I'm feeling like I want to argue with somebody, I'll answer. Um,
Exactly.
and I did that. I think it was Saturday. Somebody called, and I kept saying, "Who? What company is this?" And they'd say, "Well, I'm a branch of. This is the whatever it is, such and such branch." The branch of what though? What company do you belong to? And then finally, I told them, I said, because I'm on the do not call list, and I want to make sure that I have the company correct. And they hung up on me. And
I have another.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead. No, you go ahead.
You can put your cell phone on the do not call list. And I did that for a long time. I had it set on my phone so that I could actually FCC has it set up. You can, if they called and I got the company name, I could go in, put the company name, the time they called, and have you ever done business with them? No, I haven't. And I could put that in there and report that immediately. And that actually cut down on a whole lot of spam calls I get. I get a lot of texts today, not very many spam
Mhm.
calls.
Okay.
But
Okay, my second question was I received a phone call or a text, I can't remember, a few days, maybe a week ago, 2 weeks ago, and somebody was asking about a property in Rio Hondo. And they had sent me a picture of a Remax listing and wanted more information. And so I sent them, some information on the property and, asked them if they had any questions or whatever. They were real hesitant or they delayed on getting back to me. So they then a couple days later they requested it again, the same information. So I basically told them, since I don't have a history with you, my broker requires me to have a buyer's consultation at the office prior to me start working with you. When's a good time? So what do you think about that practice? Because then the calls just stopped. And obviously, I don't have a history of this person and I'm female and I'm hesitant to go out and meet somebody at some random property that I've never met before. So would rather do that in a public place like an office. So what's your opinion on that?
I that's something we all have to work with, and I will support that 100%. You'll hear me talk about Austin back in 2001 for us to go show property with that company that I was with up there. For us to go show property, you had to come into the office. The receptionist would make a copy of your driver's license, and then we go show property. That was in
Mm-hmm.
2001,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Okay.
I came back to the valley, and it's a complete different ballgame. You jump in the car and go every time somebody calls. Um, but it has to be you have to be careful. You have to be safe, and that's the reason we have that's the reason we all have
Forewarn.
forewarn.
Yeah.
That's been a big push with realtors. We currently have an agent. I think it's in Alabama that's missing, or has been missing for a couple months now.
Wow.
And
Okay.
you want to be careful. You do not need. It's not worth it. And if you don't feel
Right.
good about it, it's a gut feeling. You make that call. I don't think
Okay.
you'd have any kickback from anybody in the company. If you're in a situation where you really feel you need to go show the property, but your gut's telling you, there may be issues, or you get there and you see it doesn't look right, you call somebody. And if I'm available or somebody else in the office is available, um, that's one of the things. And that's another one in Austin. We always almost every time one of the women went out, they took somebody with them. And because I was new in the area, I would go with them so I could also learn the area. And I'd go like an assistant. I'd go unlock the door, turn the lights on. Didn't say boo to anybody. I was just there to keep an eye on things in case anything stupid happened. Not that I was going to do that much, but I can tell you from my experience, it's good to have a good backup in there in case you need it. If
Okay. Thank
nothing
you.
else, for support.
Thank you.
I can give you two quick stories here in Harlingen. Here in Harlingen, right over behind Pendleton Park. I went in there one morning. It was a repo property. We just had a rekey the day before. My wife and the constable rekeyed it. Right? They gave me an idea of what the property was about. I go over there early the next morning. I go stick I go to I'm sorry, get the lockbox combo and stick the key in the doorknob, and I hear voices. Well, with repos, banks would occasionally give people access to the property because we always had to give them the combos and all that good stuff. So I'm thinking, well, maybe somebody maintenance is in here or something. And I opened the door and there were like 15 kids in that property right here by Pendleton Park. They went running out the back door. They had spray painted the inside of the house, vandalized the entire house. There was paint, gallons of paint that had been in the garage with thrown all over the hardwood floors. It was a mess. Um, we caught up with them. I had one of them old square Sony cameras and we took pictures of them and stuff. We caught up with them. They were all minors. Um, and so there wasn't a whole lot that could be done. And the other one was over in Santa Rosa, big, big two-story house on 5 acres and weeds waist deep, by myself. Doors are open to the house, no idea what's going on. And as I'm walking up to the house, a pack of dogs, probably about 8 to 10 dogs, came around the corner. Not people, but still, yeah. So you always want to be prepared. So I'll tell you the other thing is, even today, I carry spray. I used to carry maize and pepper spray combination. You can buy it at Glick Twins over in McAllen, is where I bought it at, or a subscription out of Abilene, I think it is where the company is. But today I carry bear spray, actually, and you can buy that just
Mhm.
about anywhere.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. All right. Any other questions or comments? All right, so the other part is on email. When we talk about email, you can go to get.realtor. Get.realtor is one of the places I've recommended over the years, ever since NAR put that together. It's a great place to start to get professional emails. And what I'd like to do is go ahead and share that screen with you real quick. So we can talk about that just a second as well. So let me grab this. And when we look at get.realtor, it's ran by NAR, right? It's a realtor website. There, come on. There you go. So what goes in here is your name. So for example, let's say if Johnny wanted this, it is just working off of your name. Now, my name, I've used this already. I use this as a test. I was showing it in class and different things. So I don't have access to that anymore. But if you wanted to use it, it's there for you. What is going on with this?
And Mac, what does this do, man?
So you get a domain name that's yours, right? So I don't know what's going on with this. You get a domain name that is yours, right? So you can have your name. So it'd be yourname.realtor is what it does for you. I'm not sure why it's acting up this morning. But just like it says here, you got like MacMcFarland.realtor. That's actually what I had. Use it. You get it for a year for free. Get a year for free. That's the domain name. So you can use that domain name as your email, right? And you also get a website with it that's provided through this service. And so you get a professional website. You can always upgrade it if you want to, but you don't have to. And the first year, again, the first year it's free. Um, so it makes it easy for you to use. And there's additional tools that go with it, like individual property sites and etc. pages, individual property pages. When you look at the plans and the pricing side of this, like I said, it's free the first year, and then after that it goes up. I want to say it was $39, unless it's gone up. Yeah. If you just have the domain name and you're running your website and etc., that's a part of it. Um, so the first year is free for the realtor, right? For you, and then after that, it'll go up in price. Um, but it's only that I believe is only $39 and it goes up, the domain name. They also have, and again, you get the website to go with that, right? So the first year it's free, plus you get the domain name, your website. It establishes you as a realtor, which is really good. Um, After that, when it goes up, and again, you can do any part of this. You don't have to do just one, but if you go and get the domain name, the website's free, right? So that would be the smart way to do it instead of going um, like your professional website here. That's included in the domain name, right? You want to, which is something you probably want to do. One of the reasons that I recommend this is because, and I don't mean this in a bad way in any way, shape, or form, but there it is right there. It's $39.95 year after. So the first year is free for the domain, your website, and then after that it's $39.95 a year as of right now. The reason I throw this out usually at the very beginning is because as an agent, you're building your business. You're building your business under the umbrella of that broker, right? And I love Remax. I will probably be here until they kick dirt in on me. But I have been in 7 different brokerages, 7, and one of them I was with for 8 years. My wife and I was with them for 8 years. I went in at 8 o'clock. When my wife got her license, she wanted everybody to know that she was in real estate. So she used her name at XYZ Realty, right? I went in at 8 o'clock to tell the broker we were leaving 8 years later, right? I go ahead and tell him we're leaving. At 8:30, her email was gone. So I share that with you so you can also share it with others. This site is free, and for $39.95 after that, that's a pretty good deal. I have no interest in this. I don't get any profits from this, nothing. I'm not connected with it in any way, but I would have loved to have had something like this when I started because you're building your brand under the umbrella of the broker. You don't have a choice. It's the way Texas is set up. But if you eventually decide to open your own brokerage, or to develop a team. What are you doing? Where are you at? What are you going to do with that? So the question I would ask you when you're looking at this is where do you want to be 5 years from now? There's some other things that go with that. We'll talk about those through the training as well, like slogans and other things. But this is a great place to start when we talk about your email. Any questions on this one? And I'll throw it in the chat for you as well. So you guys have it. It's just get.realtors, the site. And actually, if you're familiar with our company site, this is what Norma did with it. We're talking about this back when we were putting this together. So RemaxElite.realtor, that's the company site. So Norma went in and bought this as a firm, instead bought that domain name as a firm, instead of using something else like RGV, whatever, right? So we have remaxelite.realtor. This is actually the website we use for the agent hub. This is where your videos are. There's a couple videos in here, and then underneath Max Tech, there's additional videos under here for you as an agent. This is your hub for you. Training and other things are in here. There you go. So we got videos. This is like a one-stop shop where you can go to get everything you need for the company, if you will. All right. Any questions on that one? Jump back over here. So again, when we're talking about your email, we want to remember that we cannot use the word realtor in descriptive words with descriptive words, right? We want to make sure that we actually, that goes both with your email and with social media. Email and social media. We want to make sure that we're using it correctly, which also means that it has to have the little trademark mark out there anytime you're using the word realtor. We need to be a step above, right? That's it. Um, you'll see other people that do that. If I see somebody, I usually send them a note saying, "Hey, you're using this incorrectly." If I get a response, "Hey, okay, I'll fix it" or whatever, I don't worry about it too much, other than I will track it. If I don't get any response, I'll track it, see if they change it, and if they don't, then I'll send something to the broker. And again, if they don't, then with Realtor, that's not a Trek or Texas Realtors, that's an NAR. And that's about the only thing I've ever reported is I have reported that to NAR, and then NAR sends a note to them to tell them to get it fixed, right? Because I've been doing this since 97, a lot of time and effort put into this, and we want to make sure that we're doing things the right way. Your email must include your name, phone number, and company name and address. Must include your name, phone number, company name, and address. It doesn't matter whether you type it in or you put a logo. It doesn't matter. You can, whichever way you want to do it, it needs to have those items in there. All right. And if you have questions about that, you can go to texasrealestate.com, click on the red banner, go to legal and ethics, and look at the frequently asked questions under agency. And that's where that's at. So you'll be able to see that. Your IABS needs to be completed and linked to your linked to your zip forms. I'm sorry, linked to your email, and you can get the form from zip form and link it to your email, right? So you download it, you save it in cloud, Google Drive, whatever you're going to do with it, fill it out, and then link it. And when you link it, all it has to say is Texas Real Estate Commission information about brokerage services. That's all it needs to say. And if it says anything less than that, like Trek, information about brokerage services, then it needs to be in 12-point font. The way I have it on this slide, it can be in 10-point font. Any questions on that, anybody? So the IEBS, when I say it must be linked above the signature, that's not necessary or attached. It has to be one of the others, one of those two. I can either link it or I can attach it. I've done both. I've had separate signatures set up so that I could send it to the consumer when I first talked to them. If somebody called about a property, I set that appointment with them. I'm going to send them some information. I want the information about brokerage services included with that. So I had a separate signature I would use that would include that. And right above it, it would have a note on there. Please click on this link and read. And I'd have Texas Real Estate Commission information about brokerage services. And let me know that you've read it. I never, ever got a notice from any of them that they read it, right? But I've done my part, kind of, by making sure it's there. When we get together, I'm going to present it to them and we'll talk about it and we'll get their initials. And that's why I have on here the signature or attached. Years ago, I was told that by having the link, you're not actually, in one attorney's opinion, you're not actually providing information about brokerage services, you're providing a link to it. Where if you attach it, you're actually providing it. So I made that switch in my business so that I could just attach it to the emails I was sending out. And at that point, we actually included it in our MLS. So anytime a listing went out, it could be added to the, if we set up a search for somebody, it could be added to that to go out to them as well. I'm not sure if they still have it that way or not, but so we had it then. So the other one we need is consumer protection notice. And the consumer protection notice is the easiest way to use it is via a link. And let me show you what I'm talking about there. A link to Trek, right? Oops, sorry about that. Wrong button. So what I'm talking about there is a link to Trek. And if you go in here and you look underneath contracts, you're not going to find consumer protection notice. Or if you look under contract addenda, you're not going to find consumer protection notice. In fact, you won't even find the IEBS there. Or under other forms, you're not going to find consumer protection notice, right? So here's how you do it. You go to where it says site search, consumer protection notice, or just consumer protection will bring it up. It's right here. You click on that. You click on download the form. And then you save this URL. If you save this URL and make it a part of your the link in your above your signature, if you make it a part of your process, if you will, the link above your signature, if you put in there a consumer protection notice and you make it a hot link and you link it to this link, this URL, this way you'll always have the correct consumer protection notice. You won't have to worry about if it changes, you'll have that link because there's nothing on here to fill out. There's nothing to initial, none of that stuff, right? And by the way, this is also supposed to be consumer protection notice and the IABS is supposed to be some other places as well, right? Anybody know where else they're supposed to be? Nope. Is anybody still there? How about Facebook and all social media? All social media. And again, make sure the IEBS is filled out. It's Facebook or social media that you're using for business. For business. Like I said, I've been doing this for a while. And when we say use for business, I may not intend to use it for business, but if I post something on my personal page that relates to real estate, like an open house, for example, I'm using it for business. And if that's the case, then on my personal page, I still need to have the IABS and the Consumer Protection Notice. Everybody good there? Angel, which office are you with?
Oh,
Angel? Just joined us.
Mac, I got a question about the
Sure.
He's from the Port Isabel office, Mac.
Okay, thanks. Go ahead, Johnny.
yeah, I got a question about the consumer report, not the IABS, the other one. Where can I get
Consumer
that?
Protection Notice?
Yeah.
Okay,
Where can I get that?
where I just showed you. So once again, if you'll go to Trek's website, is that where we're at, right? Were you guys not seeing that? No. So if you go to Trek's website and you plug in Consumer Protection Notice in site right here, if you'll plug it in right here and click on search, it'll bring this up. So once again, all you do is just click on download the form, and it'll open up, and there's the link for it. Or you can print it or whatever you want to. If you're going to use a link in your email, then put consumer protection notice in there and then hot link it to this. All right. And that way you always have the current one there. This has only changed, I think, twice since I've been in the business. So it's not like it changes all the time. So it's real easy to work with. Is that okay? It's also in zip forms. You can also find it in zip forms as well.
All right,
As
thanks.
far as as far as just trying to print it off. It does not belong in transactions. This is supposed to be in the office or any um, site, website, consumer social media site, any of that stuff that we use for real estate is where it belongs. It does not belong inside a transaction. All right, website. Let me back up here a second. I think I missed a little bit here. Facebook, go ahead. Question, comment? On
Max,
Facebook, yes.
Max, this is Natalia. Sorry. I didn't have access to my microphones earlier, so I couldn't ask. But so I went to the GMAR orientation last month, and they told us that if we wanted access to Forewarn, we have to send an email to GMAR to get access. But the presenter was also telling us to be very careful because we don't want to get, um, I guess, blamed for any type of discrimination.
Right.
So I thought that forewarn was, he said, you don't want to get caught like for screening your clients, but then isn't that what we're doing with
Right.
forewarn?
Absolutely. But what he's talking about, what he's referring to, and who was the presenter? Do you know? Was it Eric?
Yes, Eric.
Okay. Thanks for telling me. I'll touch base with him and let him know to make that a little more clear. The concern there is if I use say I'm using Forewarn and somebody calls and I plug their number in and it says they're probably not any good. If I make the decision not to do business with them based on that, there's nothing wrong with that, right? Except I should be using it on everybody if I'm going to use it that way. Because let's say, for example, that individual that calls in is um, from a different culture, right? And they say he only did that because I spoke whatever. Is the only reason he checked me. And if Forewarn looks at your file and they find out that because there's a complaint filed, they look at your file and they find out you're only checking a few, and those few were all of whatever from Kentucky, then yeah, they could say you discriminated. Does that make sense?
Right. Okay. So then if we're going to use it, we have to use it consistently.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Mhm.
And that actually came out from NAR, is where that came from. And I shared that with Eric as soon as I heard about it. It's something that it's an awesome tool, but either use it all the time, or the other part of this whole business and risk management is maintaining a good file, right? You might use it for all tenants, or you might use it for all buyers, but not sellers. As long as you have them in a category like that, you should be okay as well. But if you pick and choose people, that could cause the problems. All right, one of the other things I want to touch base on is Facebook. And on Facebook, and I'm going to share the screen with you right quick, and this is live, so if anything stupid comes up, I apologize for that. But let me see right here. On Facebook right quick, if every one of you should belong to one of the office groups, whatever office you're with. So if you're not, you can let me know right now and we can try to fix it. Or you can shoot me an email later and I can try to fix it. But we have a Corpus Christi group, which they use a lot. That's one of their main sources for getting information out to the agents in the Corpus area that belong to our office up there. So we have that one, right? And then we also have one for Harlingen, Mission, and Port Isabel. So the Corpus Christi is Corpus Christi and San Antonio, and then this one is Mission, Harlingen, and Port Isabel. And they're both private groups, but please remember that even though a group is private, there's still rules that we have to follow. And you never, I was just talking to somebody this morning about this, you never, ever, ever want to put anything in writing that you don't want to show up in court, right? And I was talking to somebody about a possible harassment charge, because of text messages that they've been receiving. Um, Choice is theirs, but they have the documentation. But the main thing is if somebody sends you something bad and you respond to it, you've got a conversation going. No matter what you classify it, that's just me speaking, I'm not an attorney or anything. But if you tell them to stop and then they continue, that's a different ballgame. And that's what I was trying to explain to her. On these Facebook groups, we use these just for us. But one of the reasons why I wanted you to share it, and Nina has access to this one. So a lot of times if she posts something in the corpus that might be shareable, like she does this artwork stuff from Remax, she pulls those up and posts them in here where we can use them throughout for the month, both in corpus and in this one. But one of the other reasons, if you'll click on files, in here, there's all types of things in here that you can use. Like for example, here's the buyer rep flow chart that I put together. Here's the buyer rep forms. If you're going to work with a buyer, here's a list of the forms that you can use. And in fact, the first 5 of them, it's recommended that you use them for every buyer, right? And then here's the actual forms, buyer, listing, and other new forms actually filled out. So you have an example of what to use when you're filling out a listing agreement or a buyer rep agreement or a 1 to 4 family contract, right? All that stuff is in here for you, as well as a few other things. Like for example, here's 184 things we do for our clients. It's a good piece to use to let people know what you do. And then there's some other little off the wall things in here, like how to fill out a lead-based paint addendum. I know some agents that could use that. Or you also have things you might be able to use, like the absorption rate. We have other little things in here that you'll hear me refer to all the time. Seller interview questions, really awesome piece of paperwork. I used it as an agent. I picked it up in a CRS class when I had about 6 years in the business. And I'm like, these 2 items, seller interview questions and absorption rate, were 2 items I picked up in a CRS class in San Antonio. Had about 6 years in the business, never heard of it. Fell in love with it, used it. They're really, really powerful. Really powerful. The seller interview questions are really, I absolutely love those. Anyway, that's Facebook. So if you're not in that group, make sure all we have to do is do an invite to get you in there. We want everybody in one of these 2 groups, if at all possible, right? Again, corporate uses theirs more than we do at this one. I just post things in here for things that are going on with us. Any questions or comments there? All right, so again, Gilbert, if you're not, we can, whoops, I'm sorry, put that in there. Gilbert, if you're not, we can get that, I'll get that set up for you. All right, so one of the other things I wanted to touch base on today with this is you and your website. What do you have going on, right? And when we talk about that part of this business, there's another part of this that gets wrapped up in it, and that is, what are you doing, right? So you on the sheet that I put in the chat, and again, let me copy that and throw it in here again for those that came in a little later. I have these same steps on there for you, right? So you log into remax.net, you go to the right side, check your photo, and I'm going to do all this real quick. Like, check your photo. Underneath your photo, there's an update your links. You want to do that. You want to go in and check your bio. You can use ChatGPT or AI to help you write a bio. If you're in class with us tomorrow, if you're with us tomorrow morning for our weekly training, I got something I want to show you that's pretty cool. I was messing with it about 4 o'clock this morning. It is awesome. But there's a lot that you can do. So on these notes, when we talk about ChatGPT, remember you're responsible for what it comes up with. So you need to read it, right? But one of the things you can do is that bullet that I just put on the screen is real important. And again, it's in the handout as well. You don't need to copy the screen or whatever, but you can go to ChatGPT or whatever AI you're using and ask them, say, here's my strengths, here's my weaknesses, right? Based on this, write me a mission statement. And what we're looking for is what kind of experience can I provide the consumer? If these are my strengths and these are my weaknesses, what kind of experience can I provide the consumer based on this? And Chat GPT or whatever AI will write that for you. They'll put that together. You can read through it. Like on when I did mine, I went back in and said, can you add some humor in there? And it did. Um, you'll hear me talk about that from time to time. It did. It threw in something about, uh, I've done it several times, but it mentioned something about the uh, Realtor of the Year or top producing agent, or there's a retired Marine. One of them said he won't tell you this unless you ask, or he probably won't tell you this unless you ask, something like that. Um, but those are throw those out from time to time. Now, using those key details, and this is with ChatGPT, for example, using those same details about you that they just gave you, use use what he just gave you and throw some details about you in there and say, now write me a bio. So here's my strengths and weaknesses. Here's my mission statement. Now, using that information plus this, and this, right? Write my bio for me. So this, and this will be, what have you done? What do you belong to? What are you involved in? Right? Now write my bio for me. And then you take that and you paste it, read it, make sure it's good. Because when I say good, one of the issues we have with AI right now still is violation of fair housing, right? It'll say things that it probably shouldn't say. It doesn't know any better yet. You take that and you put it into your profile on your website or on MaxTech, which will allow you to get where you need to be. All right. So let me show that to you real quick. Let me show you how that works. We'll wrap this session up. One of the great things about Remax.net is it'll log you out when you least expect it. It logs you out because it's been idle for security reasons, which is really good actually. Let me change that screen. I want to go to the screen. There you go. So when you log into Remax.net, what I'm talking about there, all those instructions I just gave you real quick, like, and they're in the handout as well. If you'll go underneath your photo here on the right-hand side, click on update profile. And this is real important, folks. This is real important. You want to click on update your profile. And on the left-hand side, it'll open up. Come on, one of you open up. I had all these open, just messing around with them earlier. There you go. Nope, that still takes me back over here. All right, there you go. So on the left-hand side, and the instructions have the same thing on it. You go through this and you want to go, let's say general information. You want to look this over and see if it's okay. But then you want to go to contact information. This is where your social media needs to be in here. So the way you do that is you go to your Facebook or whatever it is, you take this URL, you copy it, and then you bring it back over here and you plug it in. You click on edit Facebook, for example, and then you plug it in right there, right? That's all you need to do with it. You go to each one of your social media where you already have your social media opened up, because that's what you're going to do. You're going to copy that URL and you're going to plug it in so that it actually goes right there. All of this carries over to your website. So you need this done. If there's any of these that you like that, my website doesn't work right now. I need to point that and update it because of the way I had it set up. But your social media, you want to get in here and get that done so that you have that available, right? And then your photo, we want an up-to-date photo, and you're selling real estate. Just keep that in mind. And if you don't understand what that means, you will. You're selling real estate, right? We want to be professional about it. Your professional details. What specialties do you have, or do you bring anything to the table? And even if I don't have anything that I think falls in line with real estate, there's something you've done in the past that's going to tie into that, right? And we want to keep that in mind because we're going to use both of those. When you talk about specialties, You may not be a specialist at relocation, but can you learn that? Yes. Do we have relocation available? Yes. Is relocation a big ticket item? Yes. And if you're not doing relocation and asking about relocation from everybody you come in contact with, you're losing out. And you'll hear me talk about an agent from San Antonio. I want to say it's been about 3 years ago now. She said she made over $43,000 in 1 year just from relocation. Just from relocation. And we have an agent here in the Valley right now with our Brownsville office, Port Isabel office, that is probably, I would venture to say, probably close to that. She does a lot of referrals, a lot of referrals. So you have to decide what you want to put in there. Those are yours, but you can go in and edit them. If you need help with it, you can always reach out. Here's an area I want you to think about. It's really, really important. This is the office area, and you cannot change that. But what I can do is add to it. You can only have 5 down here on the bottom where it says additional service areas. You can only have 5. Please remember, if I added McAllen, McAllen is an office service area. If I add that down here at the bottom, it's not going to help. I'm not going to get more leads from McAllen, right? It's going to only hit once. And I've opened some of the agents' sites up and I see where they have additional services. They'll have McAllen in there 5 times. It doesn't do anything for you. You're wasting the opportunity to be found by somebody else by not putting something else in here. South Padre Island, for example. I'm not going to work South Padre Island today, but I have that. So if somebody's searching for an agent in South Padre Island, I'll pop up. I will refer them to an agent down at the island. I don't have a problem with that. All right. So please keep that in mind. Additional service areas is yours. You want to put something in there. And then your personal details. Oops, let me go back over here. Professional. Prior affiliations. When we talk about editing this, these are other real estate companies. If you've been with other real estate companies and you want those on here, you can put those in there as well on prior affiliations. On the personal details, this is your bio, and this is what I was talking about. Get that information from ChatGPT, plug it in here. This is your bio. This is about you. You're going to need to save that because you're going to need it for Texas Realtors. You need it for HAR. You need it for almost everything we do in here. You're going to need your bio. And in fact, you might say ChatGPT, strengths and weaknesses. Now take that and here's my focus. Write me a bio. Now write me a bio using that information specifically for buyers. Now write me a bio specifically for military veterans, right? And I could take that one specifically for buyers and plug that into my ABR profile. The one for veterans, I could take that and plug it into my military relocation professional bio. There's so many different things we can do with this. And by using AI, it makes it so much easier for us to actually do this. Some of us have had the same bio for 20 years. You can go in and look at some of the agents' bios and you'll see that they're old. Civic activities, if you're involved in anything in the community, put that in there, right? That's that connection people look for. When I first started, everything was Marine Corps, right? Marines were like that to begin with. Right? Once a Marine, always a Marine, one of those things. But everything I did was Marines and veterans. Marines and veterans. In fact, my wife is a Marine as well, and she used to give people a hard time if she ran into a Navy guy or Air Force guy or Army person or whatever. Because we always ask buyers, are you a veteran? Always, are you a veteran? Right? And watch the reaction because they could be using their VA or they could use TextVet. We always ask. We want to know. And if they came back and said, well, I was in the Army, she'll tell them, oh, it's okay, I'll still work with you. You know, things like that, right? But civic activities, anything you're involved in, you want to make that connection in here with that, right? People connect to that. What are your hobbies? Again, it's a connection point. What do you have that people want to connect to? And then, of course, if you're curious about the awards and how to be at the top within Remax, there's one of the ways to do that. Those are all on there. Any questions about any of that? Anybody? I don't understand that, Duncan. It was free. ChatGPT
Oh,
was free.
yeah.
Yes,
I
it is.
asked for help, and I just went chatgpt.com and I input whatever I needed, and it helped.
Appreciate that. Yes, it's AI is it's really good, and yes, I have the free. I don't use a paid version of that myself at this point. I have two other things I want to touch base on here with this, and all that information is in your that handout that I gave you as well. But I want to make sure that you actually get this, since we're talking about get the basics, getting things set up. When you come in here and you log in, I clicked on, so I went from the Max Tech side, I clicked on platform, Remax powered by KV Core. That's where I'm at right here, right? And I'm just going to do one little thing here. If you'll come down the left-hand side to where it has Web IDX, right? Web IDX. You click on that, your IEBS has to be loaded for your website to be live. Your IEBS, the consumer protection notice is already done for you. But right here at the bottom, so you click on Web IDX, Web and IDX, click on compliance and upload your IEBS, right? Right here where it says IEBS. You get that uploaded so that you have that in there. Because this is your website. It's provided by Remax. It is available to everybody, and you have that out there. I don't know whether you're using it. I don't know whether you guys are working with it. We'll touch base on this one again later on. But just to give you an example, as soon as you join, Remax and they put your name in the system, you basically have a website. So there's Natalie's, right? There's Natalie. Natalia, am I saying that right? Probably not.
Yes, no, that's fine. Yeah.
So you see the information that's missing right here in this column, and the information that's missing over here. This is what I was talking about on the profile. We want to put all that stuff in the profile, and it'll carry over to all of this over here, right? So that we have all that information available for us. And I'm going to go right here. Oops, I'm going to do that one more time. Sorry about that. I'll grab this up. And this becomes your website, right? Automatically, as soon as and that get that IES in it so that you have that available on your website. And then this can all be customized. We'll talk about this in another session, but this is what I'm talking about. If you have this done, all of your social media will be across the top here usually. You'll have your resources in here, you'll have your bio in here, your photo will be in here, right? So this is, if somebody Googles you, this right now, this is going to come up and this is what they're going to see. So this is why we include this right at the very beginning, because we want to get in here and get this stuff set up and make sure that we're in compliance and etc. Everybody good? Let me show you one other one real quick. I don't know if this will come up still. If not, I'll pull up the
Mac,
slides.
yes, I'm still working on that. And even I did get the invite for the Facebook, but I'm not big on social media, so I have to still create a Facebook account, and I plan on creating, the Remax website also.
Okay. All right. So here, just to give you an example, here's one from Corpus Christi. You can see the social media links are up here at the top. This is Michelle Berry's. She actually she had purchased the Berry.realtor. She was using that as her domain name for a while. And you can go in, all this is customized, but it all starts with you getting that profile updated like we were talking about earlier. All right. Anybody have any questions or comments?